them. Using verbal and nonverbal behaviors that indicate affection for students. Can you tell that, is it obvious that you have good affection for your students? I had a teacher once say, I have great relationships with my students. Well, if you're responding to me that way, I bet. Just kind of gives you something to think about. Somebody that has that kind of demeanor where they're just snotty and hateful all the time. It's like, really? So in that, Dr. Marzano, he really recommends that all of us, because we don't ever see ourselves as we truly are. We may be overly gushy with students, or we may be too harsh. He really recommends that each teacher takes it upon themselves to videotape themselves. So, just like I don't know how I'm coming across with my body language, when you're standing in front of people, and that's best for you to examine. Sometimes you really see yourself in a different light. I know none of us like to see ourselves on videotape, but I would encourage all of you to do that. To videotape yourself, just videotape the whole lesson and watch how you interact with students. You might surprise yourself in a good way, you might see things that you don't like, but again, this is all about growing and learning and doing things to help students learn. And if it's a matter of changing a tone of voice, or, gosh, I didn't realize I sounded so harsh whenever I talked to that student. It's those little things. I kind of relate these whole concept to playing basketball. If you don't know how to dribble a basketball, or the coach consistently ignores drilling and skilling on the basics, it doesn't really matter what else you do. And all of these strategies are the fundamental, very basics that I think we probably tend to neglect. And if we take care of business on these aspects, I think a lot of other things are just going to fall into place. So, and the last one is displaying objectivity and control. And that just drills right in to our goal of unconditional positive regard. Where, unconditional positive regard, like I said day one, it's not about being permissive and letting kids do whatever the heck they want. It's about when you're presented with a challenge, that you have the emotional maturity to address it and deal with it with objectivity and control. And that is exactly what this element is. Okay, moving on. Design question number 9 is the third element that we're going to kind of give laser focus to this year. And he's going to discuss the need for teachers to convey high expectations to all students through their words and actions. For those of you who have been through the 7 habits with me, this whole concept is identical to the see-do-get model that Dr. Covey talks about. It's the whole perception or the paradigm that we may have of a student, and that just kind of completes the self-fulfilling prophecy. If I think that you are low achieving, then I'm going to treat you as though you're low achieving, and I'm going to work with you and talk to you as though you're low achieving. And low achieving is probably what you're going to continue to get, as opposed to if I have very high expectations of another student, I treat them differently, I talk to them differently. And it's all subconscious. It's not anything that we do intentionally. So it's just the same thing as Dr. Covey's see-do-get model.
Design question 9 deals with expectations, and it's worded, what will I do to communicate high expectations for all students? It's kind of a forgotten area, I think, in terms of education. Not forgotten in the sense that teachers aren't doing it, but it used to be emphasized so much. You go back 20 years ago, and the whole issue, the importance of teacher expectations was just, preeminent in terms of books you read and professional development activities, and we've forgotten it, yet the research to continue to grow. And I think this is one of the most hidden, powerful dynamics in schools, and it's hard to get away from because it happens without us even being aware of it. Fundamentally, it goes like this, that a teacher will form expectations about a student's academic potential very, very quickly. I mean, in a class period. And it's impossible not to do that. We're human beings. We have our biases from our experiences in life. What we will tend to do is some kids, because they talk a certain way or don't talk a certain way, will have high or low expectations. Some kids, because they dress a certain way or belong to a certain socioeconomic class, or even race gets in here too. And I always say, we're human beings. That you can't stop those thoughts, or it's very difficult. You can go to therapy for 20 years, but you can also, though, become aware of it right away and then change your behavior. And that's what the design question focuses on. First of all, your awareness. Which students do I have high expectations for versus low? And maybe even why, okay? But more importantly, how do I behave differently with the high expectancy students versus the low expectancy students? And so really it's a matter of, always being aware of who I have high expectations for versus low expectations for, and then how do I treat them differently, and then changing those behaviors. And it comes out in kind of two ways. One is what they call affective tone. With your high expectancy students, you tend to play with them a little more, be banter, feel just more comfortable. With low expectancy students, we tend to leave them alone. Well, regardless of what you think, you have to even that out. You have to communicate a positive affective tone to every student, regardless of what your expectations are. I mean, that's a behavioral thing. It's not a how you think thing. Another big area is how we interact with them around knowledge. We give high expectancy students more opportunities to interact, more complex opportunities. This commonly comes out with questioning. We ask more questions of higher expectancies than lows. We ask harder questions. We stay with them longer. So when you start looking at your behavior, your differential behavior with students in the classroom, this is a very, very profound area. I've seen teachers take this and it just opens worlds to them. So first of all, when they realize I do treat certain students differently than others, and it's not because I'm a bad person. I just think they're not going to do well, and I don't want to push them to. Or this says no, you got to wipe that out. The behavior has to be, I have high expectations for you, and I'm going to ask you for rigorous things. And it's okay if you're wrong. I just want your best thinking. Powerful area.
Again, one of the things that was really reinforced to us is encouraging teachers to videotape themselves in this area too, and you become very surprised how our tendencies really are to talk very differently to teachers or to students that we have high expectations of versus students that we have low expectations of. So the elements for design question 9 are demonstrating value and respect for low expectancy students. Not just the high expectancy students, but for the low expectancy students. Asking questions of low expectancy students that are at a higher level and probing them. There's various ways, and there's lots of videos that you can watch in iObservation that give you ideas, just kind of laying out a story, so to speak, and then kind of presetting what the answers are before you start asking questions, giving a fair shot to making low expectancy students feel as though they can answer the question. Then you don't let them off the hook. You keep probing with them in a respectful and fun way, maybe rephrasing or scaffolding the question a different way to get them to answer the question. So there's lots of examples and there's lots of training that can go along with helping you understand things that you can do differently. It's like, well, what else am I supposed to say? I asked the question and they couldn't answer it. What am I supposed to do? Well, there's lots of ideas that we can help you with on that. Okay, just as a quick summary of the 3 design questions that we're going to put laser focus on. Design question 1, and that is under the category of lesson segment involving routine events. Design question 1, again, is what will I do to establish and communicate learning goals, track student progress, and celebrate success. Design question 8 and 9 are in the category of lesson segment enacted on the spot. Design question 8, establishing and maintaining effective relationships with students. And design question 9, communicating high expectations for all students, with a primary focus on those elements of the low expectancy students.